Hey, how many offensive linemen do you need on your roster? This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Hang on, Los
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the May 8th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. And Kistler Law, just remember, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. All right, we have officially entered what some people would refer to as the slow period of the NFL offseason. People are waiting for next week's, or is it next week? No, I think it's this week. They're waiting for the schedule drop. Everyone knows who they're playing. They just don't know when they're playing. And so it's a great time to just look at the roster. Let's talk some Ram history. We got some good stuff there. We're going to talk about the defensive line, and we're going to look at the AFC North. We've looked at the NFC West. We've looked at the NFC East. These are the divisions. NFC West, we always play. NFC East, and now we're going to look at the AFC North as the Rams have that division on its schedule this year. And of course, it all boils down to when they play and everything. And then the last question I wanted to get to in the back half of the show is, how many offensive linemen do you like on your 53? And I think after last year, I think Ram fans might say 24. I get it. One less running back. Give me 24 linemen and we'll be happy. So anyway, we want to get cracking with the show here. Again, thank you for all your support, for everyone that has clicked on, everyone that just gives that little bit of encouragement. We have seen an uptick in our numbers, even on Spotify. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to us, please do. Hit the subscribe button, the alarm button, all that stuff that builds Joe's ego. And also do that on Spotify, because when we first started the show a little over a year ago, we were saying, oh man, get this on Spotify. You got to get this on Spotify. Well, I got it on Spotify, and butt kiss, man, nothing. I mean, one hit, two hits, and we've yet to make an imprint on Spotify. So if you could help us out there, that would be great. If you can't go to Spotify, continue to participate with us here. All right. And as you have questions come in, I'll answer them right in the middle of the show and do my best. All right. So let's look, as we've looked at the Rams offensive line, we've looked at the wide receiver room. Let's look at the defensive line, the interior, the down three for the Rams right now, and see who's in the house, who's developing, and maybe who's someone that maybe we've seen enough of. So it all starts with Aaron Donald, first round pick, 13th overall in 2014. In fact, a little scoop, it was on this day in 2014 the Rams drafted Aaron Donald, 13th overall out of Pitt. Aaron Donald is 6'1", 280. I don't think anyone foresaw him being this good, especially at 6'1", 280. But he turns 32 years old this year, so it'll be interesting to see what's he got left in the tank. And then let's keep moving down the line here. Bobby Brown III, fourth round overall, 118th overall in 2021 out of Texas A&M. His first year, he didn't play. Last year, he had a PED thing where he missed the first 6 weeks. But he did come back, final 9 games, played 164 snaps, had some moments, actually. He had some moments, but at average, he was best. He was at best, he was average. Sorry, I Biden that one in 2022. And he really is the only Bubba in the room right now. He is the only one above 3 spins significantly. He runs at 325, and he has the best chance to be the A'Shawn Robinson, to be the Greg Gaines of this roster. And I'm beginning to think, because of how the Rams drafted, they are counting on Bobby Brown, that they saw enough last year that he will get significant snaps. We have to hope he stays healthy, stays eligible, and all those. But Bobby Brown is going to be a key part of this defense this year. He's 23, and when the season starts, he'll be 23 years old. Also along that line of scrimmage is Marquise Copeland. He was an undrafted free agent the Rams signed back in 2020. He played in 15 games last year, 343 snaps. Really, he went from about 100 snaps the year before up to 343. He's solid against the run. He runs 6'2", 287, which it seems like that's how the Rams seem to like their defensive linemen. Copeland's going to turn 26, but here's the interesting thing about Marquise Copeland is, like everyone else, left, came back, no one really wanted him. Out of 127 interior defensive linemen graded, 127 were graded by PFF last year, Pro Football Focus, which is the Bible for many football people, important football people. Aaron Donald was third out of 127, and Marquise Copeland was 44th. And you figure really was not slated to play that much. He only played 300 snaps. But remember, in front of him last year was Ashawn Robinson and Greg Gaines. And then, of course, Donald went out. But he's graded in the top percentile of defensive linemen. And so it is interesting to see the Rams brought him back. He's good against the run and how he develops. Also, his running partner these last few years has been Jonah Williams. I think Copeland wears 92. Jonah Williams wears 93, or vice versa. I'm not going to get into jersey numbers because everyone's changing their jersey numbers nowadays. But Jonah Williams played 13 games last year, very similar to Marquise Copeland. He played 342 snaps, and he had some moments, but he plays a tick below average. Marquise Copeland is average and solid. Jonah Williams at 6'5", 275. If you're on the interior and you're that tall and that light, people are going to get underneath you. And he actually earned a grade from PFF. If, Aaron Donald was 3 out of 127, Marquise Copeland was 44 out of 127. Jonah Williams was 88 out of 127, and which, it doesn't make him the worst. So it's not that he's the worst, but the Rams need some depth along that line, and he's back, good rotational guy. I think they feel comfortable with him. Before I get into the other guys, let's get into the draft picks. The guys that are already on the roster, of course. Let's talk about the draft picks. Kobe Turner, nicknamed in school the Conductor, Kobe the Conductor Turner. I love that name. I hope it works out of Wake Forest. He's 6'3", 290. He was drafted 90th overall by the Rams in the third round. Controversial pick. I don't consider it controversial because I had the Rams taking him in the third round. I had the Rams taking him at 98. I think he was taken into 89. I think I miswrote that there. But he's 6'3", 290. He's 24 years old, or he'll be playing at 24. People are really split. They're really high or they're really low on this guy. I'm going to trust Les McSneed and that group. 6'3", 290. He sounds like he fits right in with a Marquise Copeland and maybe a Jonah Williams. So the Rams have some rotational depth there, along with Bobby Brown. And then the other guy they drafted, 7th round, 261, Mr. Irrelevant, Deswan Johnson, however you want to pronounce it, out of Toledo. He's 6'3", 275. He's another light guy. He turns 24. Everyone's a little bit older, right? 24, 25. Stetson Bennett, I think, is going to be turning 26. Everyone's a little bit older. Of course, everyone got that extra year of eligibility because of COVID. And the Rams went deep with age in the draft. A lot of these guys, Byron Young's 25 and such. So they went deep with age. These guys are mature. So we find out sooner about them, right? That's kind of a good thing. We don't have to wait 2 years and see if they develop. I think 3 years to see if they develop. 4 years, we're going to know right away. And you can whiff on a third round pick, as Bobby Evans has shown, and so you can whiff on one of those. It doesn't hurt. So the Rams rolled on Kobe Turner at third round, and then DeJuan Johnson at seventh round. It's not a gamble at all. But if they hit the jackpot, that's great. Again, I think this Rams draft was mostly about building depth on this roster and not necessarily looking to score some huge hits. People are positive about Davis Allen and Zach Evans and Puka Nacua, and of course THT, as they're calling him now, Hodges Tomlinson. And great, if they pull out starters out of that, that's fantastic. What I'm just looking for is contributors and some depth, because the Rams have a full complement of draft picks next year, and I don't foresee them going on a run. It could happen because we underestimate. I think we've taken for granted how good of a coach Sean McVay is. I don't estimate or anticipate the Rams making a deal down the stretch. So I think they'll come back with their full complement of draft picks plus their comp picks and look for some impact players in the 2024 draft. So you got Aaron Donald, you got Bobby Brown, Marquise Copeland. Those are key guys. Jonah Williams is in the rotation. You drafted Kobe Turner. You draft third round to play this year. Is DeJuan Johnson going to play this year? We don't know. Could he be a practice squad guy? Seventh rounder? Sounds like it. Also, who joined the Rams last year was a guy named Larrell Murchison. And he had broke in a couple years ago. He was, fifth round, 174 overall in 2020 out of Tennessee. I had an elbow injury, played at NC State. He's 6'3", 291. And, he played 3 games for the Rams, got 54 snaps, and everyone fell in love with him early because on Christmas Day against the Broncos, he had 2 sacks. And everyone was saying, well, where's this guy been? And then he didn't do anything afterwards. And so he's a rotational guy, a little heavier at 291 than some of these Ram DTs. So he's in line probably to make the roster, of course, because the Rams have a lot of roster spaces. And again, he'd be a depth piece, an interesting piece. But if DeJuan Johnson performs, if these next 2 guys, which I'm not holding out too much hope for, Ernest Brown IV or TJ Carter develop, Larrell Murchison could be a guy that's expendable before the summer is over. And speaking of that, you have Ernest Brown IV, 5th round choice, 175 in 2021 out of Northwestern. So he's a smart guy. He has really yet to do anything for the Rams. On the defensive side, he's appeared in 5 games, taking 136 snaps. He grades out as a good tackler, a below average defender overall. He is a defensive end, 6'5", 270, right? If we think Jonah Williams is out leveraged at 6'5", 275, Ernest Brown, 6'5", 270. And he strikes me as a guy they just haven't found a home for. Is he hand in the dirt defensive end, or is he an edge guy? And we've heard and seen, and as he was drafted, they really haven't figured out what he is. The fact he's still on the roster, he's passed through waivers a couple times. It is interesting to see if they think he could develop, but his days as an edge, with Keir Thomas, Daniel Hardy, Michael Hoyt, Byron Young, and these guys they've brought in, of course, Hampton from Appalachian State, Ochoan Mathis from Nebraska. You got to figure Ernest Brown's best shot to make the team is as a defensive end. And again, you look at who's on the roster right now, it could get a little dicey. It could get down to him and Murchison for a roster spot. The other guy is TJ Carter. Remember, the Rams had multiple TJ Carters these last couple of years. He's the defensive lineman. The safety is gone. He's an undrafted free agent out of Kentucky. He's 6'3", 279. You'd love a 6'3" guy to put another 30 pounds on, but he's 25 years old. He played 2 games, 5 snaps last year. Complete practice squad guy. He still can't find the field. He had dances with the Cardinals, the Saints, the Steelers, and in the USFL, I think with Michigan. It was a Jeff Fisher experience, I think. And he really hasn't found a home. He's a guy that very likely will be released, pass through, maybe come back to practice squad. At this point in his career, it's really hard to see him developing well. We could still think Ernest Brown IV, Larrell Murchison might turn into something, and the clock is just beginning on Kobe Turner and DeJuan Johnson. And the Rams know what they have in Jonah Williams and Marquise Copeland, and hopefully in Bobby Brown, and then that guy Aaron Donald. For TJ Carter, this could be the last hurrah. And so it'll be fun to watch how that plays out going into this summer as we get closer and closer, because everything's going to get cranked up here in another week or so in terms of OTAs. So one of the things we've been looking at is everyone knows who the Rams are playing, right? Everyone knows who they're playing this year, and we've been trying to guesstimate where they're going to land at. My most optimistic viewpoint is for the Rams to win 10 games this year. That is, everyone stays healthy on the offensive end, and they really get the opportunity to win shootouts against some teams, because I don't see the defense really stopping anybody this year. And maybe those guys develop late in the season by next year, and they develop into quality defense. But I think the defense this year is going to be about slowing some teams down, and maybe the Rams developing that run game to burn some clock and help that defense out so it's not on the field. Remember, the Rams got worked last year with guys like Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey, Nick Scott, Taylor Rapp, Ashawn Robinson, Greg Gaines. All these guys were on the field last year, and we will go back and say it. I have to say it. We have to shout it from the mountaintops, is that it wasn't just the players, the scheme, man. It's the scheme. And are they going to change the scheme? I don't know. So I think the defense is truly about slowing things down. If they can do that and the offense could perform, maybe high end, extreme high end, like found on Christmas morning, 10 wins. If it's just, with no one getting hurt and that catastrophe last year, that was like the Hiroshima of football injury seasons. I could see, that's another season like that, and they're a 5-win team, of course. But I could see this team finishing 7-10, really easy. It could finish 7-10, and so you got to be prepared for that. And so that's why we look at who they're going to play. We looked at the NFC West because of my supreme confidence. I see us beating the Cardinals twice. I think there could be, because the Rams gave away 2 games to the Seahawks last year. I think they could have won one of those games against the 49ers. And really, as I brought up earlier, I think on this show, is the Rams do have a tendency when they play the 49ers to be their own worst enemy. And we have to see. I think the 49ers do have some slight vulnerability. I think the Seahawks have some vulnerability. I don't think they're going to have them for long. Could the Rams go 2-0 against the Cardinals and win 1 of 4 against the other 2 teams in the NFC West? Yeah, I could see the Rams getting 3 wins in the NFC West, possibly. Looking at the NFC East, I could see them going 2-2. Washington starting Sam Howell, right? Giants have some issues. The Cowboys have some issues. Of course, they're going to be playing the Rams at home, so every call is going to go for them. But the Cowboys have some issues. And so do I think the Rams, they're not going to beat the Eagles. Okay, we'll just settle that right there. We could see the Rams maybe pulling off 2 wins in the NFC East, maybe, optimistically. That would give them 5 wins. And then we look at the AFC North, and that's where we're looking at today. So as of right now, maybe optimistically seeing the Rams with 5 wins. Let's look at the AFC North and see how they would fare. Let's start with Cleveland, okay? And again, especially with the AFC North. This isn't the NFC South, okay? The AFC North is you could be playing in a blizzard anytime after Thanksgiving, okay? So it's about when they play, right? It's when do they play. And my friend Steve Ramirez, as I posted the little promo to this earlier today. It's right. If the Rams are going to play the Ravens in December or January when Lamar Jackson's obviously out with an injury, then, it's a different ball game. But how I look at this is I think the schedule makers would put Lamar Jackson right off the bat against a team like the Rams. I could see Cincy playing early and before those rookies get their bearings, putting up a 50 burger on somebody early before everyone declaring them Super Bowl threat. And by the time we get to Thanksgiving, everyone's on the IR. So anyway, let's start with Cleveland. The Browns play the rest of the NFL like the Rams play the 49ers. It's true. That's where I wrote that. They always find the most expedient way to shoot themselves in the foot. That's the Browns. That's just what the Browns do. They have a great offensive line that makes teams have to respect them. And then you got Nick Chubb. You got to respect that. You have to. But Amari Cooper is a good receiver. But does Amari Cooper scare you? Amari Cooper doesn't scare me. I've been waiting on my fantasy teams for David Njoku, the tight end, to really break out. And I just think he's a bit overrated. Okay. We know Chubb's a star, and I don't trust Watson. So, the Browns really don't scare me. Myles Garrett scares me. Depending on when the Rams play him, I could just see Myles Garrett lining up over Joe Noteboom, and Noteboom gives up 0 sacks before that game and 0 sacks after that game. But if he gives up 3 against Myles Garrett against Cleveland, then all I'm going to hear is, oh, see, Joseph Noteboom sucks. Myles Garrett presence, though, also guarantees that Ogbo Okoronkwo, who is now playing the opposite edge for the Browns, figures to have a pretty good season. On the whole, the Browns defense is average, though. And to me, they're the 4th place team in this division. But here's the funny thing. The Vegas guys are marking them at 9.5 wins. And you're supposed to pick the over or under. Now, I'm not a Vegas guy, but I don't see the Cleveland Browns in that division winning 9 games. I see them finishing in last. And my optimistic side says at SoFi, the Rams win this one. The Rams beat the Browns. Yes. Moving on from there, Pittsburgh is also at SoFi. We don't know when, so we don't have to worry about weather. Pittsburgh lost some talent on defense, but they replenished it with a great draft. And they're going to get they're going to get to the quarterback. You know that, right? That Hayward, Watt, all these guys, they're going to get to the quarterback. I know my friend out in Missouri, Steeler fan in Missouri, Rob Sorge, is doing cartwheels right now, right? And the secondary is strong with Joey Porter, and they brought in a revived Patrick Peterson. We'll see how long that lasts, but they still have Minkah Fitzpatrick back at safety. Even if I think they pay too much for him, he's a great safety. The offensive line they've rebuilt. If this offensive line isn't good enough to open holes for Najee Harris, some people other than offensive linemen should lose their jobs. I mean, it's really developed. Then you throw in, they had tight end Pat Freiermuth, who really developed. And then they got Darnell Washington, who, man, a lot of people, he dropped past 90. What did he get? 93? Was it 93 overall? Sorge, if you're out there watching, can you drop me a line there? I think he was 93rd overall. And he's a beast. And people projected him going in the top 40. And they're going to have some weapons. Their biggest weakness, more like uncertainty, is the wide receiver spot. But this is the Steelers. They could go outside, open a trash lid, and pull out a wide receiver, and he'll be all pro. They always find receivers. What they do. They always find they're going to be fine there, even though there is some uncertainty. And, there's their quarterback, right? Kenny Pickett, is that quarterback? Yeah, Kenny Pickett. What do you think? Do you think Kenny Pickett is a real quarterback or not? And I'll tell you, I had a lot of fun with Kenny Pickett last year. I had a lot of fun teasing him, teasing my friend about him, thinking that, you know what, dude, is he that good? Is he really that going to be that great? And sure enough, he did play very well down the stretch, even with his small hands. And as it stands right now, Vegas only projects Pittsburgh with 8 wins, and they actually project Cleveland ahead of them. They project Pittsburgh in last place. It's hard to go against Vegas because this is Vegas's business, right? But I think Pittsburgh is much better than Cleveland. I think Pittsburgh is going to give trouble to teams like Baltimore and some trouble to Cincy. So I don't see them finishing any lower than second or third. And I do not see the Rams, as much as I hate to say this, I do not see the Rams beating Pittsburgh in SoFi. I just don't. I don't see it. Especially early in the season. Maybe if there's some attrition later on in the year, but not. Yeah, it's not happening. The Rams are also slated to go to Baltimore this year. It was in Baltimore back in 2021 that OBJ really broke out, and the Rams won that game on the road. And again, are we playing Baltimore in September when everyone's healthy and the Rams have a developing defense and the Ravens drop a 50-burger on the Rams and everyone's screaming about, the Ravens are the team to be afraid of, and then we get to Thanksgiving and everyone's on the DL and, everyone's going to realize they spoke too soon? Or is this going to be a December game and everything's going to be a slower track? It's going to be much colder. It's going to be a snowstorm. And maybe Lamar Jackson isn't playing. That's the most amazing stat from the last 2 years is that 12 games played in December and January, and Lamar Jackson's only finished 1. That was actually a Peter King stat, and I'm not a big Peter King guy. But the Ravens, starting with the defense, it's solid, but it's not a fear of the Lord defense like they've had in the past. I like Kyle Hamilton, the safety. They've got some good pieces, but I'm just not afraid of the Baltimore defense like we have been in the past. And so that part doesn't scare me. And I think Hamilton might be their best defensive player. But the offensive line across the board is excellent, which means, the offensive line is good and is excellent. The defense is good enough. It's not great. They could go deep in the playoffs. How brutal is it going to be if this team melts down with another Lamar injury or OBJ goes down? Remember, they're giving OBJ 18 runs, right? If Zay Flowers doesn't develop, if something happens to Mark Andrews, and of course, you could talk injuries with every team, but this is a team that seems to have a lot of injuries, right? Remember a couple years ago when all their running backs were out. It's fair to talk about injuries a little more with some teams like the 49ers because there are some teams that have more injuries than others. But if you're giving Lamar 260 rocks, he has to be on the field in December and January. And if he's on the field, the Ravens are going to beat the Rams. I do not see the Rams beating the Ravens. They'll be aided by the fact that the weather would be bad late in the year, early in the year. The Ravens will be aided by the fact that everyone's healthy and it's a faster track and the Rams defense won't be up to snuff. Baltimore is projected to win 10 games by Vegas this year. I do not see the Rams winning in Baltimore. And then, of course, Cincinnati's projected by Vegas to win 11 games to win the division. I see that. I don't know if it's going to be Baltimore or Pittsburgh who finishes second because I think either one of those teams could beat Cincy. I think if Pittsburgh really develops, they could be a team that really upsets Cincy. I can't believe I'm talking all this Pittsburgh stuff today. Sorge, I want props if you're out there. But the way the Bengals look right now, the Rams could play the Bengals early or late, and they'll get blown out if everyone's healthy, right? If everyone on that side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball for the Bengals is healthy, the Rams are toast. They got no way to match up against those receivers. The offensive line is improved. They got a good running game. And I know Colin Cowherd would love to take Joe Burrow to the prom. But Joe Burrow is a really, really, really good quarterback. The Bengals can be vulnerable on defense. They replaced most of their deep secondary. Nick Scott's there now. But offensively, very few teams are going to match up with them. Maybe if the Rams could establish that power game we've been talking about, maybe, but I don't think so. Rams lose this one. So when you look at the AFC North, at best, I see the Rams going 1-3. And then in terms of my optimism for the year, as of right now, in this moment, I see the Rams going 6-8 at this point. and we'll look at the rest of the schedule on Wednesday. All right, good. That was a long opening, man. Sorry, guys. I won't keep the show going that long. I'm Joe Terosian. I spent 21 years as a sports writer, various papers, magazines, websites. I was one of the founding guys at Mid-Valley Sports, along with Tim and Dwayne. They're still doing that magic and covering the Chargers. They're in the room with the Chargers. I'm doing RamView, and I'm really happy to be doing RamView. I also write books, and that's how I support myself in terms of doing my day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank Nazarene, which you can see right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual channel, as well as on all the other platforms of social media. Just type in Burbank Faith Virtual or my name and you'll see it. Also, I'm wearing my Rams jersey here. I've never worn a Rams jersey while doing the show. I'm not necessarily a jersey guy, but every once in a while. But I posted a picture of myself when I was playing with the Rams 30 years ago, and everyone said, "Oh, is that you, or is that just you, mocking Kurt Warner?" And I said, "Nah, man." I said it to Patrick, to Manny Bean Manning, and all those guys on Twitter. I said, "This is me, right? I don't know who this Warner guy is. This is me. It's got my name on it. If you look on Twitter right now or Facebook, you're going to see my name on the back of this jersey." Okay. Hey, I do appreciate all your support. Imagine Ziggy 4, the facts. Imagine Cleveland and Ravens playing and Watson and Jackson both out. Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? I would laugh my head off because of what the owners have done. Now, I think the contract, Ziggy, I'm answering your question right now. I appreciate the question. I think the contract that the Browns gave Watson is just ridiculous. It's all guaranteed. I think the contract the Ravens ultimately gave Jackson is fair. It's up to 260, but I think 187 is guaranteed. So they got some protection in there. And the one thing about Jackson is that Jackson has gotten better. Jackson does work hard. And I don't want to sound like I'm rooting against Jackson, but the thing is that he does have to become more of a passer because he is wearing down. He cannot keep doing what he's doing, and that's why he's not finishing any seasons. And the only added thing to that is, though, can he be a pure passer, or does he really need those legs? Because if he's still going to be leg dependent, he's going to be falling apart. One stat that bears mentioning is, Donovan McNabb with the Eagles used to run a lot early in his career. And it was the year they went to the Super Bowl and they lost to the Patriots. But that was the year his rushing stats dropped and he became more of a passer. Now, McNabb did have some arm talent to be a passer, but that was the year they got to the Super Bowl. And the question is Lamar Jackson capable of not running the ball? Can he put fear into defenses just in the pocket? And up to this point, since 2019, while defenses haven't been perfect against him, he has not replicated 2019 at all because teams are set as much as they can. They're set on keeping him in that pocket, and he can make a few throws. But is he an elite arm like Burrow, Mahomes, Josh Allen? Is he Matthew Stafford? I don't think he is. But he's a hard worker, great team leader. I wish him well. But I don't see it. I don't see it. Ziggy, thank you so much for the question. But it would be funny. Who's the backup in Cleveland? Is it DTR? Did DTR get drafted by Cleveland? Who would be the backup in Cleveland facing Tyler Huntley? That would be an interesting game. I love AFC North games because it's always cold and violent, and those are great games to see. Okay, around the NFL real quick here. NFL schedule release, I think, is set for this Thursday, and then you'll get a clearer picture. Like right now, measuring the Rams against the NFC West, NFC East, and AFC North, I see them right now at about 6-8. But schedule determines all this stuff, and we'll see. Some of the things that kind of popped out. Nick Foles, former Ram, was cut by Indy. What an interesting career Nick Foles has had. And you got to wonder, would there be some team taking a flyer on him as a backup? I wouldn't mind if the Rams had him as a backup. I really don't know if Dresser Wynn is going to be the third quarterback. And is Stetson Bennett going to be ready? But I guess if you drafted him in the fourth round, he better be ready, right? But Nick Foles can still play in the right situation. You just don't want him playing so much. And then the one that got me really curious as a person that lives out here in Southern California is people were wondering what happened to Travis Dye. And Dye was assigned as an undrafted free agent by the Jets. And that guy, talk about undersized, but a dude that works hard. You wish nothing but the best for a Travis Dye, or, as we call him, the mustache. Off-season workouts start May 22nd, 23rd, OTAs, the 25th, May 30th, 31st, June 2nd, June 5th, and 8th, and then mandatory mini camp comes June 13th through the 15th. So it's all getting there, and it's exciting. Again, that's the blessing. That's the wisdom of the NFL, right? There really is no off season because draft season, free agent season, salary cap season, UDFA week, all these things, the schedule drop, all these things keep you interested in terms of the NFL. You might not agree with the NFL on everything. I don't agree with the NFL on everything, but they do know how to run their ship. Okay, on this day in 2009, the Rams released linebacker Pisa Tino Isamoa. Does anyone remember Pisa Tino Isamoa? He was a second-round pick, 43rd overall in 2003, and the Rams got about 6 really good years out of him. He was an active linebacker on some bad teams, and they released him on this day in 2009. A month later, he signed a contract with the Bears, blew out his knee, and by 2011, his career was over. So the Rams got the best out of him, and they let him go at the right time. But, someone like Pisa Tino Isamoa was around when the Rams win. He'd be better remembered, like all these guys would be, right? But for a dark period in Ram history, when this was the jersey color, Tino Isamoa was a pretty fair player for the Rams. He shouldn't have his number retired, but he was a fair player. On this day in 2014, the Rams drafted Aaron Donald 13th overall. And let's keep everything positive because on the same day they drafted Greg Robinson number 2 overall, but we'll just move past that. In 2015, the Rams signed Malcolm Brown, UDFA, undrafted free agent in 2015. And that's a great story because the Rams got a lot of clicks out of Malcolm Brown. Even after he left and came back, they got some clicks out of him last year. And he's a great example as a running back. He also got a contract with the Dolphins. Didn't last very long, but he did get another contract of what can happen with an undrafted free agent. And so you should always watch that undrafted free agent board with the Rams, especially with so many roster spots this year. You could find maybe another Malcolm Brown or others who make significant contributions. And those Malcolm Brown types are the type that you fill in your roster with before you go and make a big move on a big name player. And I have nothing but good feelings about Malcolm Brown. I hope he enjoys the rest of his life and he is blessed. But it was on this day 8 years ago, the Rams signed him as an undrafted free agent. Now, not on this day in 1973, but tomorrow on May the 9th, 1973, I'm sharing it today because I am not on the air tomorrow. The Rams signed Washington Husky quarterback, Sonny Sixiller, right? Sonny Sixiller. Now, Sonny Sixiller was almost a legendary name to me growing up because I barely got into USC football in about 74. And I'd heard the name Sonny Sixiller. I went and saw The Longest Yard, and Sonny Sixiller was in The Longest Yard, the original Longest Yard. And so I thought, what a great name. I write books, and I'm thinking, I got to have a person with their last name as Sixiller. It's just this. Is there a better name for a quarterback, right? Sonny Sixiller. I love it. Right? It's just a favorite name. Sixiller's problem, while he's a legendary Washington quarterback, and he played against some great USC teams and against some great Stanford teams in his run. I think Stanford won the Rose Bowl in 70, 71, those seasons. And then, of course, USC 72 teams, legendary. It was like Mike Ray, Pat Hayden. For Stanford, it was Jim Plunkett, and I think Dan Bunce. I'll let Steve Ramirez help me out on that one. So Sixiller didn't get all the acclaim, but he was a really good quarterback. but he only came in at 5'11", 190. And he was really considered undersized, and he went undrafted in that draft in 73. And the Rams signed him May the 9th, 1973. And he was with the Rams through August the 12th, 73. Now, Sixiller is interesting because he ended up in the World Football League. He was part of the Hawaiian Islanders, and that Hawaiian Islander team is the one that chose to, I think they weren't getting paid, and they all walked out, I think, a week before they all walked out a week before the league folded. And I'm trying to remember who the quarterback was. It wasn't June Jones. Was it Faisal? Jim Faisal? Someone actually played one game, then the league folded and stuff. But Sonny Sixiller looked to make on some other teams. He was in camp with the Chargers in 76, didn't make the squad. I don't think he had, beside the size, I don't think he had the arm, but he had a killer name and a great college career. And I know he didn't do anything with the Rams, but if people can declare Creed Humphrey the greatest Ram who never played with the squad, then I could spend three minutes talking about Sonny Sixiller and the time the Rams signed him. Okay, I think we're there. If anyone else is out there, I can see I've got some visitors, but please say hi. I went 40 minutes today, guys. That's a long time. I try to keep this at about 35, but the show was good. We enjoyed the show.
It was a stone groove, my man.
It was a stone groove today. Thank you, everybody, for clicking on. Please leave comments, leave the likes, and if you can, share this link as we continue to build our footprint. Also, over my shoulder, you'll see the book that Derek Ciapala helped author, the 1951 Los Angeles Rams, talk about the championship team. I got that on my on-air sign. You should always check that out, as well as my books on Amazon. Okay, so I think we're done. I think we're cool. God bless. Take care, and we will see you on Wednesday.